A Michigan state lawmaker is drawing considerable attention on social media. State Representative Laurie Pohutsky addressed a protesting crowd recently and said that she underwent an elective surgery to remove her reproductive organs. She was addressing the crowd's concerns over reproductive rights.
Pohutsky's statement received backlash from many on X. A Republican state representative, Brad Paquette, wrote, "Representative Laurie Pohutsky has been on a crusade to enable abortion of unborn babies up until birth since we entered the legislature together 6 years ago. She very well knows that President Trump cannot take away her ability to abort an unborn baby in Michigan. Publicly announcing the destruction of her reproductive system to further misinformation for political gain must be condemned by all." And former Newsmax reporter Brian J. Fail wrote on X, "Laurie, it's not so much men are unhappy with you. You took away your God-given gift over politics. Yes, politics. I'm much more sad than anything else and hope it doesn't become a trend for young women in America."
Pohutsky fired back, writing on X, "The fact that so many conservative men take personal offence to a decision that I made with my husband about my health care and future just proves the point, that we shouldn't assume that right is secure." Here to weigh in is State Representative Laurie Pohutsky herself. Welcome to Rising.
Thank you all for having me.
Absolutely. So look, we touched on some of the controversy there at the start, which is about the politics of all of this. But you have spoken in other places about the fact that this decision that you made and the decision to talk publicly about it has elicited some very serious threats against you. So could you just sort of briefly recap the discussions you had leading up to making this decision, but also these threats that have been made against you in the aftermath?
Absolutely. This was a conversation my husband and I had been having for over a year. We had decided that we were done having kids. We were happy with where our family is currently, and had made that decision privately. After the election, we had begun talking about whether or not we wanted to explore a surgical option, and ultimately decided that we had concerns about the access of contraception and things like that, and decided to move forward with the surgery, frankly, with a little bit more urgency after the inauguration because of the executive orders that were coming out. And currently here in Michigan, we already have hospital systems that are preemptively ending various forms of care.
And then you made this speech to the crowd and you outlined basically what you've just said there. And I mean, obviously the crowd was supportive of you. It was a crowd in favor of reproductive rights, but there's some legitimate or political criticism, which I think is fair enough in the give and take of things, but some other threats that aren't fair in the give and take of things and are threatening your safety. Is that correct?
Correct. My office has received some death threats. We forwarded them to law enforcement. I just frankly think it's a little silly that people are so exercised about a personal choice that I made that doesn't impact them, but it does sort of underline the overall attitude that some folks have around reproductive rights and bodily autonomy.
Sure. I mean, a private decision, of course. I think some of the conservatives criticizing you are suggesting it's a stunt because instead of keeping it a private decision, you've talked about it publicly and then linked it to the national debate over abortion. Now, President Trump has said that and many other Republicans have said there's going to be no national federal abortion policy, that it is to be left to states to determine. Every state that has so far weighed in on this issue is not crafting, to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, if you think this is a possibility in Michigan. I'm actually originally from Michigan myself. I grew up in the Detroit area. Does not seem likely to me whatsoever that Michigan will suddenly craft overly restrictive abortion policies, but do you think that's a real possibility coming down the pipeline?
I do. I think anyone who trusts President Trump on what he said he will or won't do is perhaps being foolish. And frankly, it's not just about abortion policy. It's also about access to contraception and insurance coverage for contraception. There are absolutely states that are working to limit access to various forms of contraception. So I don't think that speaking publicly makes it inherently more or less political. It's about destigmatizing a decision that a lot of women are making right now, to the point that here in Michigan, you have to wait several months to even get a consultation. So I think that spreading awareness about that, and also letting women who are considering this option know that they're not alone in that train of thought, has been very validating based on some of the messages that I've gotten that are very supportive. And that was the point. It wasn't about politics, and anyone, including my colleagues, saying that this was done for political gains are being silly.
Was it a difficult decision to make it public? I mean, you mentioned in terms of the discussions with your husband about what to do, in terms of the surgery, that you guys had decided you were done having kids and all of that, but to talk about that publicly, even if you do believe strongly in the merits of destigmatizing such procedures, you must have known to some extent that you would be put in a very intimate area of your life, an intimate decision in the political firing line, I assume. Was that a difficult decision to make?
It was. There on one hand, it's no one's business but mine and my family's. On the other hand, I do think that there is value in having these conversations openly. And you're absolutely right. I did know that there would be some backlash, although to be fair, I didn't think it would be international news. So that was a little bit surprising, but to some extent, the backlash was expected.
The headlines about you having done this describe it as a kind of voluntary sterilization. What do you think of that characterization of the actions you took?
I mean, that's exactly the medical name for the surgery that I and countless women undergo every single year. It's essentially the same as tying people's tubes. That's how people colloquially used to refer to it. The procedure itself has changed a little bit. I think the term voluntary sterilization sort of causes people to panic or is objectionable for some reason, but that is in fact the name of the procedure that a lot of people are undergoing right now.
Just finally getting back.
Yeah,
to
it's a harsh. I'm a libertarian. I don't care personally one way or the other. I don't have strong feelings on this issue, but there's something about calling it that does make me go, oh, why should a person? I mean, anyone can do whatever they want. Doesn't matter to me. But I don't know that it's described that way. It makes me icky about it. I don't know what else to say.
I'm a scientist. The actual nomenclature of things it's not something I get hung up on.
Fair enough. Well, State Representative Laurie Pohutsky, we appreciate you joining us on Rising, and an interesting conversation for sure.
Thank you both so much. I appreciate it.
So what happens when a journalist finds out that a federally funded organisation tries to conceal its DEI staff? More of that next.